Recent research from IDC highlighting cash-strapped businesses are looking to cut capex on technology products, and that's leading to a strong drive towards outsourcing infrastructure with infrastructure as a service. And joining me to discuss this is Darren Stevens from Brennan. A warm welcome to you. Just explain to me what infrastructure as a service actually amounts to.
Well, it's basically two components. One is virtualization, so it's about changing physical servers. You might have one for mail, one for web browsing, one for your BlackBerries, etc., into one virtual server where you're moving from physical infrastructure and then you're sharing a larger platform. There's economies of scale and all sorts of benefits there. And the second part of that is moving that virtual environment up into the cloud, into an internet provider who's able to host it, to give it the professional services it needs to keep it running, provide all the redundancy, etc.
By not spreading your risk, though, are you not perversely running the risk of that server crashing and with it all your data, because you've brought it all together, being suddenly thwarted?
Sure. So what kind of consolidating those physical servers onto one large virtual allows you to do is to put more redundancy into that machine. So you get the economies of scale, you're able to get better hardware with more redundancy. And in an IaaS model, it's not just your hardware running as a distinct unit, your hardware is running alongside or on a much, much larger platform with dozens of other companies. So the economies of scale are doubled.
A lot of pressure, though. Again, I say to you, though, what happens if that one server that you've stored all your hope on crashes?
Sure, and that happens. It's an inevitability. It's going to happen. So what we're able to do is then build big disaster recovery locations. So in our case, we've got very large hosting facilities in Sydney, and we've got equally as large hosting facilities in Brisbane.
And who pays for the data recovery? Do you take that on the chin and say, right, we let you down, therefore we carry the can on recovery?
Absolutely. It depends on the commercials of each particular agreement, but that's the ultimate ideal for a client, is that they don't care which of the servers in Sydney or Brisbane are serving their data at any one time. They just want it served. And if there's an issue with the Sydney server and it automatically fails over to Brisbane, then that's something that we wear the costs of.
Tell me about NBN, the internet connections, this kind of ugly-looking wire here. What is that doing for your business, and what needs to change in this environment to really streamline and get you competitive with your international counterparts?
Sure. So there's one of the great things about IaaS, the infrastructure as a service, is that it's a cost-down option. One of the only cost-up components in there is the connectivity from the client to their new infrastructure as a service servers, which are hosted centrally. And the NBN is going to basically make those connections faster, more reliable and cheaper. So it's going to be, it'll just enhance the ROI of moving to a computing in the cloud model.
How did you come up with this model? What was for you the seeing the light moment?
Sure. So I didn't actually invent the model. The model was kind of invented by IBM back in the mainframe days, and we've swung from mainframe down to the personal computing, and now we're moving. The pendulum's kind of moving back. This is we look after the mid-market, so Brennan's focused on the mid-market, and this is fantastic technology. What it does is bring the kind of big end-of-town computing power and make it available to the mid-market on a kind of pay-per-use, pay-per-month basis. And that really helps mid-market companies, especially now with the GFC, kind of access to capital to install this equipment themselves is limited, access to cash is limited, and they're finding that it's better to use their cash to develop competitive advantage in their business rather than just getting the servers working.
Competitive is all well and good, but in terms of price saving, what can you claim will actually bring about sort of a real cost saving for a company that goes down this route?
Sure. So we've got the latest case study we have is of a large national retailer who's gone from a kind of ageing infrastructure that they ran themselves and moved to an IaaS model. And in that case, over a 3-year ROI, we were able to save them 45%. So significant bottom line savings.
How do you grow your business? I mean, you talk about being in the mid-market space, but to really net some bigger contracts is going to require perhaps some significant investment. Are we talking IPO territory here? Are we talking, going to market and making this a public, investment option for people?
Yeah, look, I mean, one of the kind of restricting factors of the IaaS model is that from the provider's perspective, it just eats cash. So all of the cash flows that we're saving for our clients really come home to roost on us. We've got to buy the upfront kit, we've got to fit out these data centres, and that's that's intensive.
Have people though been scared off by that internet bubble, the tech wreck as they called it back in the 90s? Are you still finding psychology is a bit cynical towards all of this?
I don't think so. I think that especially the savvy investors understand that we're not talking about kind of futuristic income streams that haven't been proved.
But in the cloud sounds a bit esoteric.
Yeah, it does.
Can you bring that down to earth for people?
Sure. So it's an infrastructure as a service. So instead of you owning your servers, you're buying it as a service on a pay-per-use, and it's physically hosted in Sydney, Brisbane, Melbourne. This is tangible, net assets that they can get their hands around.
Market stabilising from where you sit to really roll out an IPO now. Not many companies have done it this year. Would you be game or not? Would you wait a little longer?
Look, I think in our situation we've got access to plenty of cash. Capital's good. We wouldn't be risking it in this market, but who knows? And in the markets that are coming around the corner in 12 months or so, perhaps so.
So you're reading the recovery maybe a year away from that remark. Dave Stevens, appreciate your time.
Thanks
for coming on. Infrastructure as a service there for you, and that was the head of the company, Dave Stevens. Let's take a short break. Plenty more just around the corner. Stick with us.
Not everything in life can be guaranteed. One thing that's certain is funerals can be expensive, costing around $6,000 or more, and you usually need to find it fast. This is a time for the family to grieve, not spend time searching for money to pay for your funeral. The Insurance Line Funeral Plan can help, giving you guaranteed peace of mind with cover starting from as little as $2.95 a week. You're guaranteed to be accepted if you're aged 17 to 80.